This is an introduction to monomers and polymers for AQA A Level Biology. This will probably be one of the first lessons that you cover in biology, just because the concepts are so fundamental in understanding the rest of the course. Let's start by reminding ourselves that mono means one and di is the prefix for two. Monomers are just smaller units from which larger molecules are made, so they're just single units. These larger molecules that monomers make up are called polymers. A polymer is a long chain made from many repeating monomer units. A key example of a polymer is a carbohydrate, and you learn about 3 types of carbohydrate in A-level biology, which are starch, glycogen, and cellulose, which you'll learn about later on in the course. Carbohydrates are essentially long chains of sugar. Each sugar molecule is a single monomer, and we call this a monosaccharide. Mono again meaning one, and saccharide meaning sugar. There are other examples of monomers, such as amino acids and nucleotides, but you'll learn about those later on in the course. There are 3 different types of monosaccharides which you need to know. These are galactose, fructose, and glucose. But the easy thing about these 3 is they all have the same chemical formula of C6H12O6. This is really important to know. But let's take a quick look at glucose. Glucose is a hexose sugar, which means that it is a monosaccharide with 6 carbon atoms. Remember, a monosaccharide is just a single sugar unit that makes up carbohydrates. Glucose has 2 isomers. This is just a fancy way of saying 2 different types of glucose, and these are alpha and beta. An isomer is a fancy word meaning that both the glucose have the same formula, but at a different arrangement of atoms and different properties. Today we're just going to look at alpha glucose, which looks like this. All of these notes are taken directly from the spec, and so you need to know this structure. This is really a memory game, and so I recommend practicing drawing this structure out many times. The way I remember the order is that the 2 H's share the same line, and the HO and the OH share the same line too. So if you were going to put a mirror down the middle of this structure, it would be the same either side. Now let's go back to our 3 monosaccharides, our single sugar units of glucose, galactose, and fructose. These monosaccharides can be joined together to form a disaccharide. Di again meaning 2. This is done by a condensation reaction, which is when 2 molecules form together with a new chemical bond and water molecule is released. So this is called a condensation reaction. So this next thing is just showing a condensation reaction between 2 glucose molecules that we learned about before, coming together, and then water is removed. Now this new bond here is called a glycosidic bond. This is really important to know, and this is a name that you need to be able to recall. So to summarise, a disaccharide is where 2 monosaccharides come together in a condensation reaction and they form a glycosidic bond and water is released. The final topic of today's video is the name for these disaccharides. Remember that we have 3 monosaccharides which can be combined in different combinations to make different disaccharides. These are the 3 that you need to know. Maltose is made by combining 2 glucose molecules. Sucrose is made by combining a glucose molecule and a fructose molecule. And lactose is made by combining a glucose molecule and a galactose molecule. So there we have our 3 disaccharides. We've got maltose, sucrose, and lactose. Now if you were to be asked in an exam to explain this, this is the wording that you'd have to use. You'd have to say sucrose is a disaccharide, for example, just using sucrose, formed by a condensation reaction of a glucose molecule and a fructose molecule. Now these disaccharides are formed by a condensation reaction, by taking water out. So if we wanted to split the disaccharides back into monosaccharides, we need to do the opposite and add water. This is called a hydrolysis reaction. Hydro meaning water and lysis meaning splitting. Okay, so here I've just got a few keywords that you need to be able to define for the exam. So monomer, polymer, monosaccharide, disaccharide, condensation reaction, glycosidic bond, and hydrolysis reaction. So you need to be able to define these and know exactly where they lie in the process of making a disaccharide. I'm hoping to make videos focused more on the topics that students find challenging, but thought I'd just start with a fundamental video to start off, because if you don't know the basics, then it might be a bit difficult going forward with A-level biology.